Welcome to Saints on Cinema. I'm Tim Wilde, and I'm here on location for a special discussion with Greg Gage, who is the owner and operator and informant and sarcastic greeter when you come in of Black Cat Comics. I've known Greg.
Seems accurate.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate, right? Gives me a hard time every time I come in. I've known Greg since 2002, 17 years. I've been buying comics from you, not here, when you were working at a comic book store in a mall that doesn't exist anymore. That's how long I came back from a mission and started buying G.I. Joes from you. Remember that?
I do.
Wow.
I didn't like it. No, I'm just kidding.
It's okay, because you weren't happy there anyway, so I wouldn't have thought it was about me.
Yeah,
but we're here today to do a very important discussion because we're doing the top 7 Spider-Man movies. Now, I approach this list a little bit differently than sometimes I do. I was trying to think, do I look at it as a comic book movie approach or an adaptation or a superhero movie or just a film? And I just went with, this is what I like about it as just a Spider-Man movie. A lot of Spider-Man fans out there are going to disagree with my choices, or at least the order of them. I don't care. This is why it's my list, because these are the ones that I liked and why I liked them and why I watched them. I had Greg make his list because he's a professional. He's in this world.
I mean, I guess.
He guess. Oh,
I say I'm a professional.
Come to Black Cat Comics where he guesses he's a professional.
There you go.
But I was going to let you go through your list, and then we'll talk about them real quickly, and then I will go through the order I had, because we'll have already talked about most of the movies, because it's not like there's that many, like 8, 10 to choose from.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to dive deep.
Yeah.
All right. Hit me with your number 7 to, is that kind of what you did as a Spider-Man film? And you're a much bigger Spider-man fan. I remember I was Superman.
I was taking a lot of stuff into it and trying to put as much as I could into trying to figure out why. And everything about them, and trying to figure out, okay, this is not just like this is a comic book movie or this is a Spider-Man movie or whatever, but just trying to and how things aged and things like that.
Yes. So and you gotta look at the era it came out.
Yep.
In consideration, because there's still value there for it.
Oh yeah.
Movies that don't. Okay.
No, absolutely.
All
so right. my 7th place, and I hate to say this, is Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
I think the major reason for that is, it's sort of like, there's a lot of Zack Snyder movies that I'll watch and I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, that was fun, that was cool. And then I rewatch them and I was like, wow, this is a... I'm going to censor myself.
Yes, I can do it later if we have to.
All right.
You're good, though. Be you. You be you. Do you.
Yeah, so, you watch it and you're like, God, that was just not good. That was not overall not what I wanted.
Okay.
And I think the biggest problem that I had was probably Electro.
Yes.
Because
just the origin or his entire portrayal?
Most of everything.
That was a big
really,
hook. The problem everyone had was how he became the Eels.
Right.
Crap.
Yeah. And it was, if they would have kept him like Max Dillon from the comics a little closer, and not just had like the, oh my gosh, I'm just sitting here at this place and I don't even know, and just kind of I understand them portraying him as an underdog and somebody that technically is a victim.
And it was a social issue.
And it was a social issue, right? Yeah. Yes. And I understand all that. But if you're going to change it that fundamentally, you should maybe just create a different character. Or, Electro's sidekick, or, or do, Ultimate Electro, or, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of ways to go besides what they did.
I agree.
So
you were more offended not offended, but disappointed with Electro versus Green Goblin. Excuse me. Because I didn't really care as much about either necessarily, but I was just like, that's dumb. Because they already messed around with Green Goblin it was James Franco.
It's emo Goblin, and every time they try and do a character that's like that, and he looks like and acts like, it's gonna make people so mad. Like, he sings for, My Chemical Romance, and he's got the swoop hair, and he's depressed, and he's like, oh, so misunderstood and angry. It's like, that is not the Green Goblin.
That's not the Green Goblin.
And it's...
But everyone loves movies with emo. but still.
Well, yeah. Speaking of which, let's move to 6.
I always shoot a couple of good things. I like those Spider-Man too. The first act with Peter, I think, was really good. Him and Emma Stone had Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone had really good chemistry. And I liked the whole thing with him stalking her and that kind of the creepy side where he's like trying to figure out if she should let go or not with his promise to her dad. I think that was really well done, and that's realistic. I mean, if I was Spider-Man, I had those powers and stuff. You know what?
You'd be a stalker.
I would be a stalker. No, he's obsessed. He's so torn because this is a relationship that could be so much happiness for him.
Yep.
And it's all he wants. He's a kid. And in the first one, he's always doing is like every scene he's with her. He's like, I like kissing. Can we kiss more and all that stuff? It's like this is a natural reaction to a kid that lost a relationship. That wasn't his fault, other than him making the promise and rolling with the punch. But I like that. It was natural and it was believable for this character.
As just a movie, like if it was it was a little after school specialish, but whatever. It's okay. It's all right.
I see
and I think he's a good actor. I think she's a good actor. I think everybody in it was a good actor. But almost everybody in it was a good actor.
Yeah.
But it was very. They kind of didn't make up their mind. I thought whether they wanted to do a Peter Parker movie or a Spider-Man. Batman Forever movie. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of what it seemed like.
Yeah.
So
it did. The scene in Madison Square Garden, that fight, he comes up and everything, he freezes and jumps around and like gets everyone it's not touching metal or whatever. That scene was awesome. It was really good. I liked Creepy Norman when he was like dying and everything, and there was like this suspense for what he was going to look like. That was well done. The stuff with Harry and Peter forced and
it was pretty forced.
Yeah,
there's a lot that was pretty forced.
Yeah, plot-wise, I agree. It's low on my list, but there's a couple good things to say about it though. It's not a rewatch. Movie I go back rewatch.
That's the thing. There's a couple good things to say about all of these. But there's sometimes more bad than good.
Yes, and that's how they ranked on my list.
Yes.
That's how I made my slot. So let's go to your number 6.
So number 6 would be Spider-Man 3. Speaking of everybody's emo. Spider-Man 3, I find a lot of things hilarious about it, and it works better as a comedy than it does a Spider-Man movie, a superhero movie, or a Marvel movie. And I mean, there's a certain amount of appreciation and respect I have for Sam Raimi for making it such a mess, because I truly believe that he was so pissed off at Sony. Because they made him put Venom in. They wouldn't let him do what he wanted to do. I really believe he was so mad that he just ruined the movie.
I like George Lucas with the Blu-ray changes. Mad at his audience. Is like,
let's not talk about George Lucas. We're talking about the worst Spider-Man movies right now. So that's still above what George Lucas did. So
I think you're right. It does seem like some of it wasn't just like his ignorance as a director. It was just like, he's like, you know what? Fine.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, emo Spider-Man, if you look at him walking around, and doing his dance and stuff like that, look at that and look at the final scene from Staying Alive, which is the god-awful sequel to Saturday Night Fever, not Saturday Night Live, which I say a lot. But, if you look at that and John Travolta comes out and they look at him and say, you know what I want to do right now? I want to strut. And he does his thing, and it's almost shot for shot, almost exactly what Sam Raimi did in Spider-Man 3. I think he was trolling people before trolling was a thing.
Yeah.
I think we could say that Sam Raimi invented trolling. How's that?
Yeah. Well, that was supposed to be a 5-part series, right?
I think so. Yeah, it's supposed to definitely be more because they're supposed to lead to, Sinister Six and all that kind of stuff. And they've been trying to do a Sinister Six movie,
right?
Which I'll get to.
It's never rolled out.
But
I think there's some good scenes. My favorite scene in that movie, which still, if I go back and watch any part, is the cathedral scene where he rips off the suit and the Torment where he has the bell. Spider-Man tears it off, falls down on Brock. A lot of people don't like this Brock, but I think that scene is really good visually until he jumps and snaps at the camera, and then it just ruins it. And then the next scene, he meets Sandman and opens his face, and that ruins it even worse. I mean, Venom is destroyed in this movie. I hate it. But the cathedral scene was really good.
And Sandman was really good.
Absolutely. I think they should have focused on him, done that movie. All the sequence, his origin, those sand grains coming together, the fight with Black Suit Spider-Man, where he's all supercharged and everything. So good. And drowns him. Oh, it turns him out. It's so awesome. And then we got to wedge Venom in here. And then the whole third act is just garbage.
And then it becomes a
Mess.
fourth or fifth DC sequel, because they're like, God, let's just get everything and throw it in there and just.
If they had cut it and then ended that movie with the Brock stuff in there and ended that movie with the suit falling down and him jumping at the camera, cut. Awesome cliffhanger for the next year if they did it well done.
But they didn't.
It's a tragedy.
Yep.
It could have been good.
So number 5.
Spoiler, it's not on my list. They didn't even make the cut.
Really?
Spider-Man 3 is not even on my list. Go ahead.
I have a feeling you're not going to like this one.
Go for it. Try me.
Number 5 is Spider-Man. The first Spider-Man.
Okay.
And
number 5 on my list too. What about that? Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's surprising. There are a few reasons for this, I think. The main reason with me is, again, I'm going to say this, like, I feel this way about the first few X-Men movies, and I feel this way about the first few Spider-Man movies. They just don't age well. And that's, of course, you have to look at the time it was made, you have to look at what was available and things like that. But
there's other things around those eras that still
do age well and hold up. Yes. I mean, and like Iron Man is, 11 years old now, which is irresponsible because that's a baby in an iron suit. Now, the Iron Man movie is 11 years old. And, it's just like, that still looks just as good as it ever did. That it's a fantastic movie. It's got everything like perfectly tied up in that movie. It looks great. Yeah. The rewatchability on that is like...
I've seen Iron Man 1 more than any other MCU movie. Not just because it was all I had for a long time.
Right.
It wasn't. It's just, it was that good.
Yeah. And the casting was perfect. It set the stage for everything. Right. And, Spider-Man didn't do that.
No.
It
did for its own trilogy. But that's a weak trilogy.
But that's a weak trilogy. Yeah. Right. I think that most of Sam Raimi's movies don't age well. Yeah. And that I'm a huge fan of Sam Raimi. We can talk for the next 3 or 4 days about the Evil Dead stuff, and even Drag Me to Hell was, I thought, great. He's done a lot of really good movies. But there's always that portion of it that really doesn't age well. Yeah. I think, I love his movies, but I think Sam Raimi is a very overrated director.
Okay.
That is not a popular opinion.
No, it's not. And I'm not going to solely disagree with it. There's a couple of good sequences in that movie that still are pretty strong. The scene where the little montage where he's like swooping in and becoming Spider-Man, introducing himself to the city.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Slowly, really well done. That they haven't done it really like that in any other Spider-Man movie.
No,
and they kind of cut right past that part.
And it's, what Sam Raimi lacks in incredible filmmaking, he makes up in excitement and fun.
Yes, yeah.
So
that's like the opening sequence with him getting bitten. A lot of fun. It's really dry.
So good.
Or not dry. Not dry is the wrong word, but it's not creative. It's not inspiring. It's not nothing new. It's very flat, but it's hilarious and it's really well executed. A lot by the performers because you have 40-year-old actors playing high school kids, and they all do a really good job. The fight the fight at the end of that movie, where the 101 fight with him and Hobgoblin after they get in the little brick warehouse area, is still one of my favorite toe-to-toe fights in any of the Marvel movies. It's so good. He does some cool little stunts and tricks, some great poses and everything. Even though it's such a hokey and horrible Hobgoblin, and when the film does so good, he tries so hard.
Such a bad Green Goblin. You're not even calling him that.
No, let's avoid that. But it's that fight though is so good, where he's like cutting off his webs and everything, throwing them through brick walls and everything, and his mask is all torn up, and he's like just the visuals and the emotion there are strong.
That was a fantastically choreographed fight. No, it definitely was, and that's some of Raimi's strengths. Because if you look at the Evil Dead stuff, it's hokey, it's goofy, but I mean, I'll watch Evil Dead 2. Really, either one of the Evil Dead movies, Army of Darkness. I love it.
That's a great comedy.
It's a great comedy. Yeah. But I'll watch the first 2 Evil Deads all day long.
Yeah,
I will.
More than you'll watch the first 2 Spider-Man.
Yeah, no question.
That's some good stuff in it, but
the Green Goblin, I had such a problem with the Green Goblin, and it's so.
And I don't think it was like, they were limited. It was the choices. It was just choices.
There is a rumored reason that happened, and it had to do with the costume designer just winning an Oscar for something.
Oh, really?
And that's why they got.
Check and let him do what he wanted.
Yeah, and then that's kind of why they got rid of the more latex mask or the. Because they had published some of the workups and the test masks and everything, before the movie came out. And it's genuinely
on my mission. It came on right before the movie came out. Yeah,
it's not a problem that I had. I was there for the movie.
You were following the current news.
But
were they good? Did they look?
They were fantastic. They were creepy looking. It's just that latex, monster, and and maybe part of that was like, whoa, this is way too scary. Spider-Man, we need to get these kids in, and that's going to scare the crap out of those kids.
They want a vacuum hose.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it looked like it kind of looked like he made it out of a shop vac.
Yeah.
His
scene, or his costume, where he had all these resources with his money and his corporation, seemed cheaper than Spider-Man, who made it in his bedroom, which, sorry, that doesn't work.
Spoiler.
Anyway.
Yeah, but and I think that Willem Dafoe doesn't need makeup for a mask. No. He's terrifying.
Yeah, he is.
And when he put that stupid mask on, oh my god, yeah. And he puts that stupid, Power Rangers mask on and starts doing this, and you can't see what's going on, and all you see is it cheapens it.
It does. Yeah. It's a nostalgic thing. Were you thinking I was surprised that it was that high up your list or that low?
That low.
Oh, that's right where I had it. Right on sync. And I'm not looking at your list. I can't read it.
All right.
Anyway, okay, go ahead.
Next up, 4 is Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
Which, again, kind of surprising, I'm sure.
No one liked that movie. I give it better praise than everyone I know.
I really didn't mind that movie. And it was because, I thought... Andrew
Garfield.
Lasagna. Thank you. Lasagna. Garfield. That's the only way I can remember his name is Andrew Lasagna.
Garfield Lasagna Mondays. Andrew Garfield.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's Monday. I thought he was a great Spider-Man, and that's the first time that we actually had the wisecracking Spider-Man. It's the first time that we had the making jokes and being goofy, a little nervous to be Spider-Man, but also a little cocky.
Tobey Maguire was not a good Spider-Man.
No.
Everyone likes him as Peter. I think he's fine.
Yeah.
He's right off of the 50s or 60s comic page.
Yeah.
Peter Parker.
But, the thing with Tobey Maguire is I think he's sort of, he quickly aged out of being teenage Spider-Man before the movies did.
Yeah.
They were still stuck in that space. And I thought Andrew Garfield seemed a little more comfortable in the Spider-Man suit.
If
that makes sense. Yeah. Tobey Maguire was all right, I'm covering up my face, I'm a movie star.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it seemed. More Peter Parker scenes, please.
Right.
So,
right.
It was
And even as Peter Parker, all he can do is kind of well up tears and puff his lips a little bit.
Yeah. And but I didn't think the lizard was as bad as everybody thought either, because it looked a lot like Steve Ditko's original design.
I don't know what that looks like, but I'll agree with you.
Thank you.
You're the expert.
I kind of had that almost pug-nosed sort of,
he wasn't a cave troll.
And he was, it was very much like if a human and a lizard shared DNA, and that was which was the plot.
Right.
Exactly.
He looked like a human lizard.
Right.
And he's supposed to look like a human lizard.
Yes. And I mean, I think as cool as I think Todd McFarlane's Lizard was in Spider-Man, because it was so cool looking. I think that's kind of what everybody holds that standard by.
Right.
And they don't remember for 30 years before that.
Right.
Well, wait, there was a totally different look. And for 30 years before that, Spider-Man didn't put his ankles up here and his arms like this. And,
yeah.
I mean, he changed the way that the Spider-Verse looked.
And that's what I love about those two movies, was it looked so much like Todd McFarlane's. So the poses that Spider-Man does.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
So good. And and I was like, those are the shots, and some of them are even in the trailers. When I finally saw the movie, I was like, that is so cool. And
they had like the was it 301, Spider-Man 301, when he's like, swinging and his arms are up like that. And this looks like I'm trying to do something horrible, but it's like, you know what I mean? I mean, they even had that shot from the cover of Spider-Man 301, which is such an homage to McFarlane, obviously, and they did a really good job with that. But in a second, I'll tell you why it was not higher.
Go for it. Move your number. What are we on? 4, 3.
Number 3, yes. 3 is Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
And despite everything I said about Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi and everything like that, I think Spider-Man 2 has aged better than any of them. And I think a lot of that has to do with Doc Ock instead of Spider-Man. I think he was. Oh God, I can't remember his name now.
The guy that throw me the idol.
Yes, the idol indeed. I thought he was just great. He was so good.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job with his origin. I mean, yes, it was slightly tweaked and different.
For this movie, my favorite thing about it was the chemistry between him and his love with his wife, their relationship, and his how much he adored Peter.
Yeah.
And Peter's idol worship of Octavius. It was so strong that when he fell into the darkness with the mindset with the tentacles and everything, and became the villain, even though he strode with that for such a long part of the movie until the last 2 minutes. Yeah. It was impactful because you knew how much Toby cared about Doc. Mm-hmm. And Doc, the idol guy. But that love and those relationships that they set up so strongly in the very beginning just made or carried the weight for him being a villain. Otherwise, he was just a cheesy villain in the bank robbery. Everything he did was just really hokey. Right. Not visually, it was just hokey, except for the weight that it carried because of what they already set up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So other than Doc Ock, what else really worked in that movie for me? I love was the Aunt May conversations. This is where he confesses to Aunt May about what actually happened the night Ben died. The conflict that he has with MJ, where she's becoming a star and she's doing her acting and everything. He can't be there to support. It's all he wants. The dopey pizza delivery sequence in the beginning. A lot of people think that was fun. I liked it. Really it was a good throw into the movie. Here's where he is in his life. Yeah. Not where you thought he'd be.
Yeah, and it's got that Parker Luck thing going on too.
Yes.
How great.
Nothing works out.
Now I got to pay for
Yeah. And it's a really good setup. And those comedic beats are good in the beginning. No other comedy works in this trilogy in my mind. But the beginning of all that stuff, the visuals, because now they've stepped up their budget. He's now swinging a lot higher. And now he's not in Queens, so there's that part too. Yeah. But he's swinging all over New York. The visuals are great. That shot that they show where he's swinging down low in the street and darts between the semi and the cab, the stuff like that was awesome. The train sequence
was much more exciting.
The
train sequence was great.
Oh my gosh, that is so good.
One more thing that I loved about that is when Doc Ock was bonding with that and the arms were going nuts, because that was I think they let Sam Raimi do the camera work he wanted to do. Because that was straight out of Evil Dead.
Are you talking about when he's waking up and they're animated and he's still unconscious? It's like a horror film.
Yep. Because that was straight out of Evil Dead. Because those shots are Evil Dead. Those kind of diving, twisting, weird cinematography.
And the sound design, as I was listening to the little shrieking that they make, and then when they pull out the metal saws and they're trying to cut it and stuff. While I was just watching this was yesterday, I was like, this scene is so effective. And it's so ominous and creepy. And it's this is almost if this was in an R-rated Spider-Man, this scene would be the best scene of the whole movie. And then he wakes up and then he's responding to him. And this thing where you hear the cops come and he turns and then the thing opens his mouth like looking with him, and they're on sync with his brain. So cool.
That was so
it's
cool.
so cool.
That made his legs like Deadites from Evil Dead. That's exactly what they were.
Right.
And they were or his arms, they were going.
Yeah.
And, you could see through them like that. And they, it was so cool. So cool.
It was so impressive that he did such a powerful or such a strong performance playing such a dopey character. Doc Davis he can be deep, but he's a dopey character.
He's Roy Orbison with a temper. Is what he is.
Right.
Really smart Roy Orbison with a temper.
Now tell me
look that one up, kids.
The last thing on that one though, this train stopping scene, not the fight.
Oh yeah,
it
was so good.
You liked it.
So good.
Some people just have a problem with that. I'm like, I'm sorry, there is so much emotion.
But they even threw that into Edge of Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
They threw that scene into it.
Yeah.
Which was so cool because that was such a great scene.
Similar.
Yeah.
It's not this Jesus, I never
No,
thought
I've
that at
never
the
made
time,
that
and
connection.
people have said that, but
No.
I'm like, that's not what it was, and people like make fun of him. He pulls off his mask. His mask gets ripped off, and he's like a 4-year-old man, and they're like, he looks like my son. You're too old to have a 4-year-old son. But the emotion and Doc, and then nothing they do. He saved them, but they can't save him.
Yeah.
And they step up, and he's like, "That's nice." Throws them out of the way, and still takes them. It's just all the emotion that's there between him and the New Yorkers, which is a theme in the Raimi movies.
They made all the characters into better characters.
Yes.
Really. And the second one, they stepped it up with everything, and I thought it was a much better movie, by far the strongest of the three.
Yes, for sure. And as I watched it, I was like, you know what, this movie still holds up.
Mm-hmm.
It's cheesy at parts.
That's the only one of the three that still hold up.
Yeah, so good. Some people it's at the top of the list, and then I've heard conversations like this where people have talked about that one, that it's mostly nostalgia. I don't buy that.
I don't think it is. I think it's
it.
just a really good movie.
It's good. It's good. Story wise, effects wise, it's and character wise.
Yeah, really solid.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're in agreement there. That was my number 3 as well. Go ahead with number 2.
My number 2, I couldn't make up my mind.
Okay.
So I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to say that Homecoming and Far From Home are tied for first.
Just flip either way.
Either way. It could go either way.
Okay.
And I don't know right now. I just saw Far From Home again.
Okay.
And I don't know which one I like better.
Okay.
The thing that I liked about Far From Home, about both of them really, is we've talked about this. Tobey Maguire was a pretty good Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield, Lasagna
Great
Boy, was a
Spider-Man.
really good Spider-Man. Yeah. Okay, but they haven't been able to find anybody that's both.
Yeah.
And Tom Holland was perfect.
Yes.
Because he can be that wide-eyed kid.
Yeah.
He can
when they first introduced him in Civil War, fighting with the Avengers. They couldn't make him this. They couldn't have him do this. Like, I have no idea what's going on. He just get run over, and he held his own in that.
Yeah.
And it was still like this hero.
But you could tell that he's terrified.
Yeah.
And he's excited.
Yes.
And he's cocky. And
he's a high school kid.
He's a high school kid, but he has no self-confidence. I mean, it's everything that is Peter Parker.
Absolutely.
And Spider-Man combined into one. And I thought it was exceedingly good. The thing I love about Far From Home is how intentionally misleading everything is until the halfway point of that movie. And that includes...
Spoilers for Far From Home a little bit.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So this is spoilers.
From the first one we were talking about, that's not a decade old.
Right. Yeah. I thought that the way the trailers made it look like, it took me like a couple of times watching it, to realize, they're doing a Sinister Six movie. That's what they're doing.
In this one?
No, I thought it was just going to be a Sinister Six movie.
You're saying
Spider-Man, Sandman,
gotcha.
Molten Man.
Yeah.
I mean, just wow. Yeah, Mysterio. You've sort of got Kraven in there.
Yeah.
With Dimitri.
Yeah.
Who is actually the Chameleon.
Okay.
The guy with the rifle and the beard. That's actually Chameleon. Dimitri's the Chameleon.
Okay. I don't know.
Sergei is Kraven. But. They're brothers, and he always, a lot of the time, he would imitate Kraven because he was like we idolized him.
I read one Craven story in Ultimate Spider-Man. That's
Oh,
funny.
yeah, very different.
But it was a good one.
Yeah, very different. So they're brothers, or half brothers, I guess. Chameleon always idolizes him, but it's like this abusive sibling relationship, where Craven puts him down and is really.
And this is what you were
horrible.
pulling out of the trailers. Is that what you're
saying? No, I saw the Chameleon in the movie.
Right.
Yeah,
as you're watching
as I'm watching it, I'm like looking for more Sinister Six, and when we get there, and I'm like, oh, that's what Mysterio is doing, and he's just gathering him. It can't be right. He can't be working with Shield, he's gathering him up, and he's gonna make Sinister Six, and he's gonna
Nope.
None of it. None of that happened.
Yeah. I heard other speculations as they were watching the movie that they thought he was talking about this multiverse situation. Yeah. That maybe this really was a Mysterio who was a hero from another verse, and we're going to see the real Mysterio show up.
Yeah.
And no, and there's like that twist, and that not the twist, but it wasn't really a twist. It was expected because it's Mysterio. But the reveal to me was just as effective after the glasses scene in the bar. Was just as good as the reveal in Homecoming.
Yeah.
Acting, the scene where they're driving to the dance with the kids in the back seat and not Tim Burton. Tim Burton. And not Kevin Costner, I was about to say.
Michael Douglas?
Michael Douglas. Michael Keaton in the front seat was just, that scene was so incredibly executed. The visuals, the light, you're just seeing the interior of the cabin. As you watch it, like as things dawn on him, he seems to be going to a darker part of town because the lights are getting darker.
Yeah.
And right when it finally clicks, he pulls up to a light and there's a red light on Michael Keaton's face. So beautiful, powerful. Shot. And as soon as he says, I want to have a moment with Parker, even though it's Spider-Man and he's a human dude, even if he reaches for a gun, whatever, you're like...
You're scared for him.
Yeah!
Peter Parker could throw him through the front of the car like that, but you're still scared for him.
And it's because of the terror on his face and shock.
Yeah.
That it's not just... He already figured out who he was. He didn't recognize him at the house, but now he's like, oh no, he knows who I am. Yeah. Everything's dawning on him, which I didn't realize until last week when I watched it, getting ready for the new one. He left his phone in the car to track him. Because he goes out, if I remember right, he goes out and he talks to him, I need you to track my phone. It's in Vulture's car. And then so Ned goes and gets on the computer and starts tracking him. And I'm like, so while he was horrified, he still had the confidence that he knew he was going to leave his phone. Yeah. That is so awesome. That is so bold because you're like, he was conflicted and he decides, he goes in the dance, sees her, and he goes like, I got to go, I'm sorry. And then that's not what he decided. He decided back in the car while he's being threatened with death. And everyone that he knows is going to die. And there's my phone. But like that, I never thought about that until last week watching it. I've seen it several times, but I was like, he decided in that moment that we're sitting there just like horrified for him. He stepped up right then. He's like, I'm leaving my phone.
And that goes to Far From Home, where Tony Stark knows that he's the one that can take care of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a beautiful tie-in.
So that was a good reveal, the Mysterio reveal, and then he goes his whole celebration speech.
Oh god, yeah.
And they start pulling all these, they're showing who these characters were and how they're affected. I thought it was really neat. That was a very MCU thing to like tether in characters you completely forgot about.
And that's why I realized that's when I realized, oh yeah, of course, this is the last movie of Phase 3 because everything really came together. I mean, everybody thinks that came together in Endgame, but it really came together in Spider-Man.
Yeah. It was a nice little epilogue for the whole thing. And
did you know that this is something cool that Tony Stark's "I love you 3000."
That's Tony Stark.
When he said "I love you 3000" to his daughter, that was improvised. It was not in the script.
It was the little girl said that.
When he said "I love you 3000."
Did she say it to him?
Or she said, yeah. That was improvised.
Aww. I had no idea.
So that was not in the script. But the way that they had edited the credits and everything at the end of Far From Home, the first 3 phases of the Marvel movies are exactly 3,000 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Okay, so I agree. Those two can be interchanged on awesomeness. My only conflict with deciding which one I like better, and this didn't have anything to do with my list, was just I felt like it's the same movie. It really is. For beat, he has an objective with school. He likes a girl. Things are falling apart for him. The Parker Luck you're talking about. and then the villain comes in. There's the twist halfway through the reveal, and then he has to figure out he has to infiltrate the scene. Kind of be for it's good. Yeah. I'm not complaining about it. It's just this one did it better than Homecoming. But when I did my initial reaction to the movie, I was like, does that make it a better movie because they did the same thing? I'm like, no, I think you still got to give props to Homecoming because it did its thing. Just they had time and they fleshed it out. And I my problem with Homecoming is on the flip side. I think the end boss I call them boss fights. The villain fight with Mysterio was way better than the fight with Vulture. There was no fight with Vulture, and people argue with me the whole airplane sequence or whatever was the fight with Vulture. Every time he interacted with Vulture, Vulture picked him up, dropped him in the lake, and then on the bridge he kind of flew and just grabbed his guys and got away. There's a couple moments and stuff, and then he in Spider-Man hooked on him secretly and snuck onto the plane. They had a little bit of a fight and then crashed the plane. That was it. Yeah, there was no getting up out of the. If he got up in the fire rubble and they had a final fight off like they did in Spider-Man with Goblin and Spider-Man, then that would have been like the perfect movie of all time to me. I would love that movie, but it's just I'm just like it's over. You know, he just ties him up.
I'm almost okay that it was like that because it's not the usual thing. Yeah, they did deviate a little bit.
Yeah, but I prefer a good villain fight.
Sure. Yeah.
So in the second one, that standoff when he jumps through the drones and gets there, and then they have the twist and reveal with the gunshot, and you're like, what just happened? It's so
good.
It's so and you're watching the CGI or whatever coming in and out and everything. Yeah. You're just like, this is incredible. As he's tuning in with his senses.
And I still, even though we've warned about spoilers and everything, I still can't say it because I wouldn't feel right. But the two end credit scenes are probably the two best end credit scenes I've ever seen in a Marvel movie. And I think not because it was like, oh, that's so cool, or it
was weight.
Yeah, when eating at the end of Spider-Man or Avengers was like so great.
Yeah,
it was so good. Yeah. And it was just like and all the other stuff was super cool. There's maybe the lead in, there's the fadeaway, and the blah blah blah. But this had weight. This had some serious repercussions.
Yeah, and
for everything to come because they got to deal with this stuff, and they can't just be like, "Oh, this is what happened," and they, they went and ate shawarma and now they're friends.
Yeah,
like that. It actually did affect everything that's going to happen and has to happen.
Yeah.
In the next one.
Yeah, and that is a great comment I heard from another channel that. If you walked out at the end of the movie before the credits, you didn't see the whole movie. It's not just a tie or a lead for the next movie. You didn't get the completion of this story arc of what the actual twist was at the fight with Mysterio. Yeah. Stay for the credit scene, and if you already saw this, and we just kind of ruined a lot of it anyway. But
that's the one when Spider-Man dies.
By Doomsday. But I agree. And those two for value, there's a couple of things that are better and worse than one. I love his chemistry and everything with MJ more than the girl, whatever, I can't remember her name in the first one. And you cared more because there's all this investment and it's Zendaya, But I just there's a lot of things I think I'd have to put Far From Home above, just between the boss fight at the end and the relationship I care about more.
Yeah.
But I think there's no problems with Home Game.
Gives you an advantage.
He's a basketball player in it. All right.
I think that the thing that makes it tied for me though is probably the fact that it did introduce the perfect Spider-Man in my mind, the perfect Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it had that Tony Stark interaction, which was just can't be beat.
Yeah, I agree. And that whole lead up for the hug, not spoiling Infinity War, but that hug,
oh my god,
that whole thread through Homecoming, and
it set up the emotional connection in Endgame.
That was in my top 7 reasons I cried at Endgame. That's the one I think that was my number one. I remember was the hug. Yeah. Okay, let me just hammer through my list real quick. You're gonna be shocked. Number 7, Spider-Man 1977. I went back and I watched this for the first time because my brother said it's on YouTube. I was like, really? So I said I'd do it. I watched it. Let me just say this. I had to put my mindset in 1977 era. Superman the movie came out in 78, I think. And I'm like, okay, but this was setting up this was like 3 episodes setting up for a series. This wasn't like a big blockbuster. There wasn't such thing as a blockbuster, but it was like a big motion picture. And I was like, okay, so I got to look at it that way. And then when it starts, I'm like, this is hokey and terrible. And
This was
like,
Nicholas, what's his name?
I don't know the guy. It has the guy from Bewitched as JJ. That's the only guy I remember. And this is, if we make fun of Peter or Tobey Maguire, this was a 50-year-old playing Peter Parker in this one.
Yeah.
But you know what? Watching this movie, I was like, and I can put myself looking at Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk and all the shows that were on back then, the 18 kind of era. I was like, I can watch this and appreciate what they went for. Because when you're seeing some guy on a long shot scaling a building, tied on a rope, this is not blue screen wire work, This is some dude in a ridiculous set of pajamas climbing up a building with like one camera, like in a bush across the street. There's something to be said for that, Greg. And there's like, you had passion about this character to put that movie together.
That's a practical effect.
Yeah.
That doesn't get seen anymore, really.
No, and I was like, hey, there's a lot of fun. There's no humor. It's not a great script, but it's a perfect little adaptation of Spider-Man. They hit the beats. Mm-hmm. Jonah was the same. You had the cop. He gets the spider bite. He's talking to his friends. He likes the girl. It's not MJ, but he likes the girl and everything. Yeah. All those storylines, the dialogue and everything seems similar to the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon, the old one. Mm-hmm. I was like, hey, this feels like an adaptation of what the fans back then liked.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of creativity with how they did the climbing on the walls. They had a couple of sets, and then they had some fun wire work where he's jumping on the ceiling, and you can see a track right around the middle. There's some scenes I was like, I had to pause the movie to go get my brother. I was like, Jay, and he's already seen it. I was like, Jay's come here. We got to talk about this, But I tell you what, there was a shot in there, and I'll cut it right here because no one's going to flag this for copyright. But I'll put it right here. There's a scene where he's fighting, the henchman fight is with three guys with kendo sticks. I mean, come on, this is so boring. And you're seeing him sneezing. He's like got allergies. He's like sneezing on the roof. Like Spider-Man is sneezing. Like this is what the crap are we doing here? Anyway, but there's a scene where he's fighting the guys, and he jumps on the wall, and it's seamless. Yeah. And you can't, and then he flips upside down
seen this for on so the wall. Long. I probably need to watch this again.
And but maybe selected scenes.
No, I'll watch it. I'll watch it.
But I was like, I don't know how I finally watched it. Probably watched this 15 times. But when he jumps on the wall and flips upside down, and the guys come in for him, he punches them off. There's no cuts. They filmed it exactly like that. And I was like, that's impressive. This is 77 garbage and schlock.
Yeah.
But 1977 Spider-Man was ambitious. I was really impressed with the creativity. Landing into a series. I'm not going to go, I didn't watch the 81 and 84, whatever the other two. It felt like a made-for-TV movie, which it was.
Yeah.
And it was fine. But I was like, you know what? This gets points because this has more rewatchability to me that I could watch with my friends and laugh at it and enjoy it and appreciate what they did than Spider-Man 3. I'm sorry. And I know you're not a strong defender of it. I'm just saying, I was like, you know what? After I watched 77, I bumped it off. I said, I would rewatch this before I rewatched Spider-Man 3. I've watched Spider-Man 3 maybe twice. Once was just to let my kids say it. Anyway, 77 though. Horrible and flat, bland clothes, but it was the 70s. I was like, but they did some fun stunt work that you got to appreciate. The guys on wires hanging on scaling inside the building.
Oh man, I forgot to put Japanese Spider-Man on this when he fights the Transformer. Where are you going?
I've seen some shots. I've never sat through a movie, and I don't think when he has a Megazord.
Yeah, come on. Yeah. I own Birdemic. If I own Birdemic, I can watch Spider-Man 77.
77, yeah. So that's my number 7 was 77. I didn't do that on purpose. Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, that was my number 7. So towards the bottom, like yours, same reason we already talked about. 5 was Spider-Man, just like you did.
Okay.
Here's where I kind of wedged out a little bit. This is where I put Far From Home over Homecoming. But as we've been talking about it, I think I put Homecoming in this slot. People yell at me for Homecoming be my number 4. I gotta put it there. I've watched all these movies in the last 2 weeks, except for Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2. I didn't watch those. But in the last week, Spider-Man came out last week. Yeah, last Monday. It's been a week. I watched all these movies last week, including 77. Most of them yesterday. And rewatchability and a lot of fun came out of Homecoming. It goes here because I'm gonna put Far From Home.
Okay.
All right. Otherwise, Homecoming was at the top, like everyone
I
else's.
actually
Everyone's list.
I haven't watched any of these. I just Wikipedia'd all this before you came.
You just did a Rotten Tomatoes scoring. Yeah. This is how good they are.
Yeah, that's exactly how it ranks.
But number 3 was Spider-Man 2. As I rewatched them yesterday, Spider-Man 2, like we said, it holds up, and it's got a lot of emotion, and the characters are strong. The action sequences are good, and it's fun. It's a fun movie that has a lot of ups and downs with how you're feeling, the tone and everything, which is not good or bad, but I mean, good scenes and sad scenes, and it's so well fleshed out. It's just so enjoyable. It's such a good completed film. I'd say almost a little bit above one of the 2 new ones, just because they're the same thing. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
The other reason, but it gets enough. The props is strong enough to be on the top 3. A lot of people are number 1 or 2 still. That's my number 2. Homecoming. Well, now Far From Home, we switched it. So Homecoming is number 2. My number 1 is The Amazing Spider-Man, Greg. My number 1
Which Amazing Spider-Man?
is The Amazing Spider-Man. Number 1. My number 1 is the number 1 Amazing Spider-Man. Here's why. In a world...
You couldn't have told me this before we did this? I
never would have agreed to this. In a world where some people can say that Man of Steel is their favorite Superman movie, which is such a betrayal of what the Superman character is, in certain ways, it's just an adaptation. In that world that we live in, this is allowed to be my favorite version of Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
Okay, when you put it that way, I'm going to give it to you.
Okay, it's true, and I'm like, okay, I understand why people had complaints, and even Kevin Smith's like, Andrew Garfield is far too sexy to play Peter Parker. I'm like, okay, I get that. Other people are like, he's too old. I mean, they all were old.
They're all too old.
Tom Holland was the ideal casting, perfect.
Yeah, because he is older, but he doesn't seem old.
Yes,
he's such a good actor that he can pull all that off.
But he's not like 8 years old, whatever.
It's not Grease.
Yeah, it's like the high school reunion cast filming in the high school movie.
Rizzo, are you making fun of me as you collect your Social Security check?
Yeah. But this movie, we watched it yesterday. Of all these movies I've watched in the last week, if I was going to pop in one more to watch a second time, it would have been this one. We talk about the Lizard is really good. His emotion, his motive for doing this, but he's also doing it for Osborn is really strong. His relationship with Gwen pays off at the end. The visuals are just stunning. I hate his costume. And some people will defend him. It's so annoying. I just don't like what he came up with. But the shots that they do, the first-person camera footage they do when he's swinging around and stuff, the origin stuff. How the transition is when he gets his powers, and little things like he's doing his homework on the roof, or he's like typing and the keys pop off in his fingers, like little touches like that. He didn't get all of his powers and explore them in a 3-minute scene, like Tobey Maguire did. That's what I hated. When I came back from my mission, the Ultimate Spider-Man had just come out. I read through the origin, and I was like, this is awesome. I've never read Spider-Man before. Mm-hmm. Then I went to the movie theater in Indianapolis at the Star Wars Celebration 2. Went with my brother. We went that weekend to see Spider-Man opening night, and I was like, this is not as fleshed out and good as Ultimate Spider-Man I just read, where it took him time to learn his powers. In Andrew Garfield's movie, in Amazing Spider-Man, it was a transition, and it was slow, and it was effective because he's dealing with the emotions, and as he's learning about the chemicals, what's happening, he's like, this is research where this animal, this lab rat, is dying, visually, or in the analytics or whatever. Where it's dying, he's like, am I going to die? He goes back to Connery, he's like, did the hosts get overcome by the foreign genetics?
And that's a valid fear. That's a fear that everybody should have. That something like that happens.
I can't tell you what happened to me, but I'm very invested in this experiment now. In fact, here's the formula that my dad had that I just found. Let's fix it, And he's like, and that meanwhile, their motives, he's trying to make sure he's okay. Dr. Connor's like, this is also self-indulging, but those reactions make all their fights later work. Yeah. And then when Gwen's thrown in the middle of it, it works even more. The bridge scene. It's a very suspenseful. You don't really see the Lizard the first time. You very little glimpses. You see his little tail and stuff, little shadows, and where he tripped open the cab and stuff. And then he has a chance. Spider-Man, do I chase Lizard or do I save this kid that's in a car? That sequence where he takes off the mask, gives it to the kid.
That was really good. So the things that I definitely liked. I liked the fact that it was Gwen, not Mary Jane.
Yeah. But why?
Why? Because it was Gwen and not Mary Jane. Mary Jane didn't even come into the comics until later.
Yeah.
You know, it was Gwen that he was in love with.
Yeah.
And then,
high school Spider-Man, Gwen.
Right. And then they were like, whoa, Archie's popular. Let's throw a couple of them in there with different hair colors and watch them fight for you. And I thought, you know, I mean, I do agree that the gradual powers, you know, and that's probably why I like the new one so much. Because it cut past that. We don't need, and that may have been higher, like, you know, if, I mean, I understand why they changed that, you know, Peter Parker was not a science geek or a computer geek or didn't get picked on for that. You know, I mean, he was a different kind of geek. Yeah. You know, and you're talking about
Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
And he's a photographer,
and I get that.
And he's still being bullied, but to me, it's a more realistic bullying.
It is. You know,
it's not a jock punching you from behind because you threw food on him in the cafeteria. That's happening in the Cobra Kai series, which is awesome, by the way. But that's not. To me, that's not like modern day bullying.
Yeah.
In 2000, okay, it's fine. But this is like a gradual move to like what bullying is like now. He's just getting picked on. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I like that. I think I would have liked it more if they didn't redo the origin, although they did it well.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, at this point, do we need another origin story? We don't.
Right.
And that's why I love the new ones so much, because it did skip over. We know he was bitten by a spider. Yeah. We know. We get it.
It's like people complaining about the Bruce Wayne's parents dying in the alley, and there's we see it.
Yeah.
We're
my God, we need to see that slow motion shot of the pearls, Zack Snyder, another 14 times in Justice League.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man! You know how much can we see that? And Alfred saying, "No, please, you need a sandwich." It's like enough. Okay, I get it. He pushes past his limits, and his parents are dead. I understand.
We know Batman.
Okay, stop it.
100 years. But with the death of Ben in this one, though, his lash out with Aunt May and Uncle Ben, where there was a little fit and where they're like, what's going on? That was strong. Really great emotion from Andrew. Really, and when Ben dies, you see the shot. He doesn't just come upon the body dying. Yeah. You see that, and it's really impact. It's a huge. You're like, whoa, you know. And he's like in shock. It was just a grocery store thing. It wasn't like a big car robbery or whatever.
It wasn't anything big.
And he goes up and he freaks out, and Andrew Chris balls, and it's like, oh my gosh, he just lost his uncle. You buy that?
Yeah.
And Tobey Maguire, it's all right. Ben did it better. I don't know. It's hard to. I don't want to complain about the argument, but.
Tobey Maguire, his crying.
It's movie crying.
It's movie crying. It seemed really forced. Yeah. You know, I mean, and it just seemed like Tobey Maguire being just. It seemed like Tobey Maguire. It seemed like Tobey Maguire was trying to cry, instead of Peter Parker.
This character is crying because of what happened. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And he goes on the rampage trying to hunt down the killer, and he's like challenging people in the streets, and he's just like, oh, they saw my face, you know. I'm like, all that build up, it's just so good as you're watching him become Spider-Man, going from this arc of being this kid that's retaliating from what happened to I'm going to be a hero. It's so subtle in The Amazing Spider-Man. It's not just a quick montage, which we appreciated.
You know, and I got to tell you, if Tom Holland was playing Spider-Man in Amazing Spider-Man,
oh my God,
you know, that would be close to a perfect movie.
Yeah,
that'd be very close to a perfect movie. You know, I think he's so much better that, I mean, you know, if they had approached Tom Holland earlier, I mean, the timing was right for everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Earlier, Tom Holland probably wouldn't have been able to do it, or you know, whatever. But you know, say there's a time change or something.
Yeah.
You know,
generation
I mean?
they were the same time.
Right? Yeah. You know, and if Tom Holland would have been in that playing Peter Parker and Spider-Man, which again,
same script and everything.
Same script and everything.
Yeah. The script is good. We got better humor, I think, than we did in Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Didn't hit it didn't peak until Tom Holland's style, but that's whatever. It's still good. It's still good. We saw Quippy Spider-Man. Where he's in the car. I was watching with my son. He was in the car with the carjacker, and he like pulling the door. He's like, yeah, you thought that was gonna work. Whatever. He goes, oh, nice.
Yeah.
Once you see those scenes, and you're like, it was kind of a dumb joke when you first saw them, but like, you know what? They're actually good. It's good
Spider-Man
lines.
does make dumb jokes.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Yeah. They're not. He's not. It's not George Carlin.
So I just one thing to add
Yeah.
before we wrap up on stuff here. Edge of the Spider-Verse or Enter the Spider-Verse or Spider-Verse or
I
Spider-Man.
took that out of it. For everyone complaining about this list, I didn't have the Into the Spider-Verse stuff. I took that out. I was just going until Greg was. I just want to do live action because that is such a good movie on a different. It's a different level, but it's a different feel.
It's a different thing entirely. You know, I mean, yeah, it pays homage to the other movies, and it has clips from the other movies, which I really appreciated. You know.
Oh yeah.
I told you this the first time I saw it in the theater. I couldn't watch it because I got such a migraine trying to focus on that fake 3D looking double imaging, you know, and I couldn't do it. I walked out, came back in, closed my eyes, listened to it, like, you know, it was an old timey radio play for a little while, which was great because that's how Spider-Ham sounds. You know, that's John Mulaney sounds like he is an all time radio play.
Yeah, he does.
You know, and it's like, oh, you know, that was fun, you know.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the Nicolas Cage narration, what to me was narration because my eyes were closed.
Yeah.
You know, and
well, it's not like you can see Spider-Man's face, his mouth moving and stuff. So
yeah, right. I mean, you know, so what I saw in the theaters was good. I enjoyed it, but I couldn't watch it. So I recently, you know, about a week or two ago, watched it on TV at home.
Mm-hmm.
I you know, got a, you know, widescreen, flat screen, blah blah blah, whatever, you know, and it's not the wall, you know, but it's not tiny either. So you know, there were still a couple of those.
You can enjoy the art, what they did for the effects, but it's not.
And I mean, I think. I don't know. I liked it a lot, but I think, and we talked about this a little bit, you know, I mean, I think if we would have had maybe another half an hour in that movie, then the potential that it was reaching probably would have been found because it was more of an Ultimate Spider-Man movie than it was a Spider-Man movie. You know, which they've had elements of Ultimate Spider-Man in all the live action movies, of course, but you know, I mean,
because it's awesome.
So Spider-Verse. I think. And I obviously put a lot of Ultimate Spider-Man stuff into all the other movies,
right?
But I think the Spider-Verse. I'm just going to call it that because the comic is Edge of the Spider-Verse, Enter the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, I think it was more of an Ultimate Spider-Man movie than it was a Spider-Verse movie,
right?
And I really loved the portrayal of a lot of the characters. I thought it was really great.
Great,
once I could actually see it, you know,
you were rewarded.
And Nicolas Cage it's been a long time since I've said this, but Nicolas Cage was good in that movie. Actually, that's not true. There's been a couple movies done lately that I liked, but
Mandy,
you know, Mandy, and yes, and Mom and Dad, which is just the mess, but I love it so much, man. You know, and it's, I mean, I thought it was really enjoyable, but I mean, you know, when you start talking about everybody says, oh, this is the top of my list and it won Oscars and it did, you know, and I mean, it was really fun.
Yeah. It
was really fun. It was a really good, solid movie. I think they could have fleshed out, you know, Spider-Man, Spider-Man Noir,
all that
Penny Parker, you know, I mean, all that kind of stuff. Either in another movie or make it another half an hour long.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, who's going to complain about a comic book movie that's a half an hour long these days? I mean,
with that cast as good as it was, you weren't like, oh, is there time yet? At all. I agree. And if it was a little longer, they could have fleshed those characters out a little bit more. Because that was my problem. Is like they introduced them like right before the last fight. It felt like.
Yeah,
they didn't have time to shine because they were such good characters, and you wanted them to have a little more time than that. I mean, the pacing. We always give credit to the MCU for how well they do they give the screen time to each of the characters that everyone gets their fan service. This one didn't feel like everyone got enough.
Didn't do it. Yeah, it did not quite. You know, I mean, I liked the actual covers for actual comics with the titles changed.
That was so cool.
You know, that was really cool.
Every time they did the story,
I was like, oh man, that's an old Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, you know, that. And I like how they just kept reiterating in a couple of sentences their origin.
Yeah.
And then when they were all three doing it at the same time, and Spider-Ham, they were like, radioactive spider pig. I was like, oh, that's funny. That's really funny. Sorry, pig.
That's a good
radioactive pig.
Yeah,
and it was a lot of fun, and I did enjoy it. because it's basically an Ultimate Spider-Man movie, I'm not sure even how to put it in there.
Yeah.
And the, maybe 2, 3, 4, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
I couldn't be like, oh, the performance of Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man was so good, but here's this animated Spider-Man that was, it's not the same thing.
Well, yeah.
And they're both just as, they both deserved all the praise. It got the awards it got, and it deserves to be high up in people's ranking. It's just Spider-Man fans. We're just looking at movies. It's not at all. It's not the same.
I can say one thing about it, though, as you were talking about Spider-Man 1977. You couldn't see any tracks or any ropes in Edge of Spider-Verse.
That's true.
The
effects were flawless. The stuntmen in that movie.
They were really good. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got hurt, which is crazy. Yeah. I mean, that's where usually somebody gets hurt.
Yeah. I felt it was kind of, there was so much excitement, so much going on. It felt bloated in certain parts, like some sequence, like the fight scene in not MJ's house, but Aunt May's house.
Yeah.
It's like there's like 20 characters in the living room having this big epic fight, and they had to take the fight outside with the audience because you couldn't see what was going on. I'm like, that's because that was a poor. Start the fight there, you go on the street, then show it.
But I love the Spider Cave.
Spider Cave. Yeah. It was a good movie, and it deserved mention. So thanks for bringing that up. But yeah, so my number one was The Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, I could go back and rewatch it today, and I would enjoy it. I think it's just really good. Strong, the death sequence with Dennis Leary, all that type, the conversations with
I don't like Dennis Leary either. He bugs me.
In the movie or in general?
In general.
In general, but in the movie, I think he did good.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, I loved it. And the scene, I will say one more thing about it.
What do you mean smoke?
No, he didn't smoke one. No, maybe he did. I don't remember.
Yeah,
But where he reveals himself to Gwen, and they're on the balcony, and he's I can't say it.
Oh yeah, that was great. That was a really good.
And she turns around, and he shoots her and pulls her in for the kiss. I'm like, that was smooth. Cool. I told my son, I was like, that was awesome, and he's like, what? I'm like, oh, that was just smooth. But
you have to tell your son not to tie up girls. Pull them to him and then kiss them. Because that's a felony. That's a felony. No Me Too anything. That's straight up a felony. That's kidnapping.
That's true.
That's okay. Sexual assault. That's just a felony.
That. But it was slick. It was a smooth move for the movie. And the last line that movie ends on, after he promised her dad, he didn't go to the funeral. And then she figures it out. She's like, he made you promise you wouldn't come. Yeah. And then he goes to school. She's like, just bitter and just ignoring him. He comes in, sits behind her, and she's like, don't be late again. And he's like, I won't be late again, I promise. And she's like, don't make promises you can't keep. And he leans forward. He's like, sad. Those are the best kind. And she smiles. You're like, oh, he's gonna break the promise.
Yep. So Spider-Man's no moral.
Yeah, his word is nothing. Anyway.
This has been fun. I can't believe I actually went through a whole thing without swearing. Holy! I mean, that's like, oh, there it is.
That was a good setup. Anyway, well, Greg, thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me come into your amazing store and
my spectacular store, my superior, my web of store.
Your web of store. I told you I was going to buy a T-shirt from you when I finally saw here. I don't think you have my size up there.
No. I got that really small V-neck.
Yeah.
That may look good.
That won't pull up. But thank you, Greg, for your time and let me come in. It's a good conversation. I'm glad you like Spider-Man. I'm glad that you entertain me with all these characters that I don't know enough about, and you sell me on your comics because that's what you do.
Yeah.
But thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Greg, what's the actual address of Black Cat Comics?
The actual address is 2261 Highland Drive, Suite A. It's not a euphemism. Salt Lake City, Utah, 84106. If you have any questions about anything, or if you just want to, just talk about Spider-Man, come on by. Give us a call, 801-461-4228. There you go.
Yeah, I'll put that down here somewhere.
All right.
Right there. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks again, Greg, and we'll catch you next time on Saints on Cinema. See you guys.